What is an effective retirement withdrawal strategy? So today's topic, I'm going to go through how to create an effective retirement withdrawal strategy. What are the common mistakes to avoid? And then, how do you make sure that you're setting it up successfully for your specific situation? So rather than guess in your retirement, typically what happens is an individual has accumulated X amount of dollars of assets. So the different accounts that somebody could leverage for retirement is the obvious, cash accounts, cash, checking, savings accounts. There's the 401k related accounts, which is employer sponsored retirement plans. You have IRA accounts, which grow on a similar tax related basis as the 401k accounts. You have Roth IRA accounts, which grow tax free. You have cash value life insurance accounts, which someone can leverage for tax free income with a specific strategy. And then obviously, you have other assets such as real estate that you could sell a home and ultimately turn that into cash, or have some sort of rental properties that are producing some sort of cash income streams from there. So this is going to be the most basic components off of the different assets that someone typically has. So the number one problem that occurs when somebody doesn't create an effective retirement withdrawal strategy is they outlive their retirement income. So if let's say somebody wants to retire, you have husband and wife, they're both age 65. They say, okay, we have Social Security income that's coming to us. We have $1 million worth of these, different buckets, these different assets. And we're just going to start pulling off monies from this account, as much as we need for our expenses, and hopefully everything will work itself out. Well, that's equivalent to going on an airplane and not knowing if it's going to get to your destination successfully. So like anytime you see these probabilities of, if you segment your assets into a combination of stocks and bonds and you're trying to pull out X amount of percentage from your assets each year, there's a 70% chance of success or an 80% chance of success. If you put into the perspective of going on an airplane and you have a 70% chance or an 80% chance of your, of you getting to your destination successfully, and the other, 20% or 30% chance of the plane crashing and burning in the hills, everyone's going to get off of that plane. That's the way that you have to take retirement and retirement planning. That's the seriousness that you have to take this, because let's say if you're in the situation 65 years old and you set up this withdrawal strategy the wrong way, you might outlive your monies within 10 years, within 9 years, within even 15 years, where you would be, 75, 80 years old, and now you don't have a dollar to your name because, you spent all this money. And you either have to have a large lifestyle change, giving you panic, giving you further worry throughout retirement, or not leaving, certain monies to beneficiaries that maybe you thought were a large goal of yours. So there's a multitude of different things. What this is ultimately showing us, it correlates to something known as the Retire Sharp planning system. This is stuff that we do in-house. So if any portion of this video, makes sense, or you want to, get further information, further clarity on it, simply call our 1-800 number, 1-800-566-1002, reference this video, and we'll make sure to get you over to a specialist, kind of help out, put things into a larger perspective. But ultimately, what we want to do is make sure that there's 3 steps that are always covered so that it will give you that pure retirement success. Step 1 is income, and this is by far the most crucial step. So the trick with income, or creating a proper income strategy, is first figuring out what your expenses are currently, and then what your expenses are going to be throughout retirement. So like as an example, if let's say, you're 62 years old and you say I want to retire at age 65, and my current expenses are $60,000 per year, but then maybe at age 65, my expenses are going to drop off because I'm not going to do as much traveling to work, or I just kind of want to, relax a little bit, or maybe your expenses might even go higher because you want to take a lot of, different vacations and kind of, splurge a little bit in retirement. What exactly is this variance? What is the difference between your current expenses, let's say is, 60,000, and maybe retirement expenses are going to be 50,000, or it could be higher, 80,000. So the most important aspect is understanding what this number is and making sure that you're figuring out your budgeting, your budgeting analysis. If you do not effectively figure out what your expenses are, what your budgeting analysis is, then there's no plan that's set up in place. There's no direction that you're taking. It's basically like, getting on being from New York and trying to go down to Disney World and just say, yep, I'm just going to drive down south and hope that I hit it. It's not, you have to at least have some sort of map, some sort of guidance. And, that destination point, that is the guidance. That is the expenses. That's the crux of everything regarding how retirement planning works. And this even works for if you're, years out from retirement or if you're currently retired. So even if, let's say we're more in the wealth accumulation stage of retirement planning and somebody has 20, 30 years left, well, kind of have a baseline off of what your ideal expenses are going to be in those 20, 30 years so that you could figure out what the X point is and then work backwards and then scale it down into, okay, how many months do you have from there? How many days do you have from there? What sort of saving strategy do you have to set up? So, regardless of whatever portion, whatever stage you are in retirement planning or in financial planning in general, you want to make sure that there is, that at least the end point, that ultimately point B. So we always want to, create, where's your current point A, what's your current age, what's your current assets, point B, what is the age that you want to retire, and then from point B until date of death, how do we figure that out and make sure that you're taking all these little steps along the way so that it is attainable. Once we know what those expenses are, then we really focus in on that step one, is the income. What is a proper income strategy that you could leverage to make sure that if you stop working, your income streams from your different assets, and be mindful, Social Security income is a large asset. People don't think of it that way. You say, oh, it's a couple grand per month, and that's not a huge deal. Well, if you multiply, let's say if you triggered Social Security income at 62 or 65, and you're getting $30,000 per year, and you live for 30 years, that's over $900,000 of an equivalent bucket that this person is receiving. If we're not even incorporating the pace of inflation or like a cost of living adjustment in there, just 30,000 multiplied by 30 years is $900,000. That's a huge, huge benefit that someone could leverage for their retirement income goal. Another benefit that unfortunately a lot of people do not have as much as they used to in the past is a pension plan. This is a pension income stream where somebody was working for their employer for X amount of years, 20, 30 years, and the employer was setting aside, fractions of their pay, and it was being invested on the back end. And now when they hit those X amount of years of service, they're able to receive a lifetime income stream. So let's say if somebody had Social Security income and they had pension income, this is already helping out their situation tremendously. We want to make sure that your income streams are greater than or equal to your expenses. So if you're already starting to chop away at what this expenses are going to be, each month, and you're able to suffice this by just Social Security income and pension income, it makes life a lot easier. It makes this retirement withdrawal strategy a lot easier. Now, unfortunately, it's not as simple as that. And unfortunately, individuals' expenses are higher than what the Social Security and what this pension income stream is generating. And, just to give you kind of some food for thought, only about 10 to 15% of individuals currently are offered a pension plan. So this has really gone by the wayside, as opposed to when, your parents, grandparents, different things like that, where that was the norm. Pension income streams, that was the norm. That's why you had a lot of loyalty with organizations and companies, is because they knew, okay, if I'm giving in X amount of years of service, this company is going to take care of me. And, with a retirement income stream that I'm never going to outlive. So if, let's say, you eliminate that pension income stream because you're unfortunately one of those individuals that don't have a pension, well, then, Social Security might be your only guaranteed income stream, where now you really have to, set up a proper plan. So now you're looking at this, you say, okay, well, I understand I have expenses of X amount of dollars and my income streams are not going to get me there. So we obviously have this gap. And if you have other assets that are sitting there, kind of think of it like a bucket, and let's just call it $1 million bucket with all your 401k savings, assets, all of that. How exactly, do you figure out how much to pull from this? Well, first off, it's the gap. And then we look at what are the, effective retirement withdrawal strategies to suffice this gap. So what commonly used to occur was an individual just say, oh, I invested my money in the market. I, was super aggressive with the market, and the market, should always be going up throughout the years. And I'm just going to leave my money in those investments and just try to pull out monies, as needed, and hopefully everything will work itself out. But once again, by leveraging that strategy, there's a question mark there. And there's different software tools. There's different Monte Carlo simulation tools where it says, okay, if you're in a 60-40 portfolio or a 80-20 portfolio or 50-50 blend, whatever that is, a combination of stocks and bonds, there's a statistical probability that you're not going to outlive your retirement savings. If anything is less than 100% that you're seeing on that paper, you should go and make sure that you're setting up your plan to rip up whatever that plan is. The reason why there's no guarantees when you're leveraging a wealth accumulation strategy, trying to accumulate as many dollars as possible for an income-related need, is because you have a combination of fees. So you have the expense ratios that those funds that you might be in. So let's say, typical mutual fund-related fee is right around 1.31%. A typical advisory fee is right around 1.25%. If let's say you're trying to pull out monies, and rule of thumb, or it used to be rule of thumb, was something known as the 4% rule, of saying if you're leaving your money invested, you should be able to successfully pull out 4% of your monies, and there's about a 90% chance that you're not going to outlive these dollars if you're retiring and you're in your 60s. So this is another dollar amount that you're pulling from. And then if there's, most importantly, a downward market loss that occurs, this downward market loss could be unlimited. If you're tied to any sort of risk, any sort of equity related risk, and the monies go down and the market drops down, and you're doing this and all these drops, all these negatives are occurring, especially with the first couple of years of retirement, that's known as sequence of returns risk. And this is why it completely destroys a portfolio. So this is why I like to leverage insurance companies and a type of insurance income, leveraging annuities for the step one. And it's just to set up whatever the gap is, but make sure that you're having at least flexibility as you're leveraging those annuity accounts, as you're leveraging those insurance companies, so that it's giving you a baseline. It's giving you a type of safety net so that you're using the smallest amount of dollars only as much as necessary, so that now you could have as much leftover monies in the step two and the step three of step two emergency and step three of growth. So an example would be somebody having $1 million worth of assets. And let's say we figure out that their expenses are $60,000 every single year. This person is currently age 62 and they're looking to retire at age 65. So they ultimately have 3 years before they hit this retirement age and 3 years before they want to start triggering Social Security income. If we understand what those expenses are, remember this is the crux of everything, and maybe their Social Security income that's coming to them is $30,000. This says, okay, out of our expense need, we've already sufficed $30,000 of this gap. Let's say there's no pension income stream because they unfortunately fall within 70%, 80% of majority of Americans. There's no pension income stream sitting there. Well, we know that there's a gap. There's a gap of $30,000. Rather than just say, okay, I'm going to go invest my money in the market and just try to pull out these dollars, and there should be a good probability that I'm not going to outlive the dollars, that these monies are just going to be growing and I should be able to pull them out. There is still that question mark. There is still that worry, and there is still that risk there that nothing is guaranteed. If we go and we leverage an insurance-related product and we're trying to say, okay, well, what's going to be the optimal amount of cash flow, and is this at least going to give me a guaranteed lifetime income stream? What's the smallest dollars and only as much as necessary from this $1 million that will suffice this $30,000 need? So based upon this person's age 62 with the $1 million of assets, maybe it's going to cost this person $400,000 that they have to put aside into an IRA annuity or a non-qualified annuity or a combination of both that will generate this X amount of $30,000 of income. Because we only use $400,000 and this is producing that level $30,000 of income plus the $30,000 of Social Security income that this person's triggering at age 65, this has now sufficed the gap, and this has now made sure that they accomplished this step one of income. So, be mindful. That's just a really simple example, and there's more intricate details that go into this plan. You don't just leverage a random annuity company because you have typical situation. If somebody is above the age of 55, below the age of 74, they might have over 1,100 different choices. How do you know whether a company's good or a company's bad? And conceptually, everything sounds great. But let's say out of these 1,100, you have first place option is producing a person with a 9% cash flow. Second place option is producing this person with a 6.5% cash flow. And then the third place option is producing this person with a 6.25% cash flow. Well, you're going to want to go with whatever the first place option is, because this is going to result in you placing significantly less, thousands of less dollars with the top related contract, the top related account, as opposed to the second and third place. Let alone if, let's say, you accidentally stumble upon the wrong company and you get set up with somebody that's in 100th place. Well, maybe that cash flow that a contract can provide is at 4.25%. So now you're losing all this benefit, and now you're going to have to ultimately double the amount of monies that you have to place with this crappy product as opposed to just going with the best one. So that's why, it's very important that you're working with a company that understands how to cherry pick which are the best contracts for that individual situation. And that's what we do with our Retire Sharp planning system. That's what we do with our customization to make sure that, once again, you're using the smallest dollars only as much as necessary. And then in that example, if you started with $1 million, it was going to cost $400,000 in the step one to make sure that you were setting up with the correct asset that will produce you that lifetime income stream. Well, now you have $600,000 remaining for the emergency and $600,000 remaining for that growth-related need for steps 2 and 3 to be accomplished. So with the emergency need, step 2, emergency is saying rule of thumb is about 6 to 12 months of whatever your expenses are should be set up in some sort of liquid account, some sort of easily accessible account that you could pull from any time. So if you ever come into an oh my gosh moment, tree comes, falls to your house, you need to take an emergency trip, medical ailment, whatever that is, you could at least pull from your dollars. So maybe out of that $600,000 that was remaining, maybe $50,000 should be set up in an IRA money market account or a non-qualified money market account that's not going to get hindered with downward market losses. It's not really going to gain anything, but it's just a liquid account that's sitting there that you have it as a type of rainy day fund. And now you have $550,000 left over into this growth strategy, and now this is where you get to have a lot of fun with it. And this is really, there's a whole multitude of different things you could do. You could say, okay, 550,000, let's all go to Vegas and throw it all on black, which is absolutely insane. Or you could go and invest these monies. This is where we leverage something, it's a software tool that allows us to gauge what your appetite for risk is and to see what this plethora of options, what this step 3 bucket, how that should be, segmented properly. So as an example, maybe out of this 550,000, based upon your risk tolerance, maybe 250,000 of this should be set up into different investments, different stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, while that remaining 300,000 should be scattered across a couple of other asset classes or a couple of other accounts. So maybe that might just be fixed related accounts or fixed index related accounts or market linked CDs or whatever that that case might be, and then other portions into fixed related accounts. So what you're doing is you're taking $1 million of assets, and now you're creating a customized blend of different accounts and different strategies that are now being worked at an optimal basis. So maybe 2 of these accounts are set up for an income related need, 1 account is set up for an emergency related need, and now you have 3 accounts that are set up for a correct growth related need, so that you're just having as much control and as much growth on your dollars that you never had to use, because you've already sufficed, you've already taken away that panic from, okay, how do you make sure you're not outliving your savings, and how do you make sure that the only dollars that you're utilizing for an income related strategy is small, and you're trying to leverage your other assets towards the step 2 emergency, step 3 growth effectively. So now, what are the problems with these sorts of strategies, or where we notice a lot of mistakes? First off, there's not a one-size-fits-all type process. You should not just say, everybody should go with company XYZ and just kind of call it a day and dump all your assets in it. So the major problem is trying to throw all of your chips towards one strategy and not leveraging this customization for your specific goal. The other aspect is not having a safety net. If you have Social Security income, let's say, same example, this person has $60,000 need. They have Social Security income of $30,000, and this person has pension income of $50,000. Well, this tells us that their income streams are $80,000, but their expenses are $60,000. This person's netting positive $20,000 every single year, and they still have $1 million of an account balance that's sitting there. Why in the hell would anybody take a single portion of these dollars and leverage that towards an income strategy when they don't have to? There's no reason to leverage an income strategy above that. So now, instead of utilizing anything towards that income need and even throwing into any sort of annuity contract, well, now they could say, well, out of this $1 million, let me just kind of leave $50,000 in cash, and then, the other $950,000. Now let's have fun with it. Now let's grow these monies properly. So that's where, all because somebody is an insurance agent or somebody is an investment advisor doesn't mean you have to leverage that route. You want to set up whatever's going to be best for your situation and make sure that you could customize your accounts properly. The other problem is also not understanding what your appetite for risk is. And this is what we have in-house. So we have different software tools that allow us to gauge specifically what your risk score is, and then how we could custom tailor a plan right around that risk score. So if you don't like the market, as an example, and your appetite for risk shows that you don't like the market, you shouldn't be getting set up into anything related to investments and related to risk. And vice versa. If, let's say, everyone's telling you, because you're in your 60s, you should really scale down your risk tolerance. Well, if your appetite for risk, some people absolutely love the market. They're more gunslingers. They love the market. They love kind of the ups and downs about the market, and that's fine. That's where something would be more appropriate for it. So say, why would you ever try to leverage a safe accumulation related account if you like risk, if you want to try to get as high of a return as possible, and that's kind of going to be your enjoyment throughout retirement. So, this is going to be a very important part on top of, obviously, the budgeting analysis is probably the most important aspect when trying to create a proper retirement withdrawal strategy. And in closing, the best takeaway is just customize your goal. Rather than guess, rather than, try to figure it out on your own, this is where we come in. We help out clients every day figure out where their current point A is, understand what all their assets are, understand if there's any tweaks that have to be made, then also how to get what is their point B, so what's their exact date of retirement, how to make sure that we're getting from point A to point B successfully, and then point B until, as morbid as it might sound, date of death successfully, making sure that you're able to accomplish this and hold on to your monies as best way possible, and then you use these different leveraging components. Everything should just be used as a big game of leverage. If something is able to give you a higher percentage of cash flow, you use it. If you don't need to have that cash flow, you don't use it. If you want to have something that's going to be able to leverage you to get a good return on your money, such as investments, then you use that route. If, let's say, that's going to scare the hell out of you, you don't want to leverage investments because you understand the risk that's involved, well, then don't use investments. But, just make sure that everything is customized. And, this is really what's tailored to our Retire Sharp planning system process, making sure that, somebody could, will basically would take the panic away from, realizing whether or not they can retire, and, if there are, certain tweaks that have to be made. So, in closing, I want to thank you very much for watching this video. Please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Retire Sharp, so you can have access to the most updated videos. Feel free to call our 1-800 number. It's 1-800-566-1002. Or you could click the little links in our description box showing where our website, afasifinancial.com or retiresharp.com, and you'll have our digital calendar pop up on your screen where if you want to set up, an appointment that works best, with your schedule with a specialist, and you want to kind of, outline, the correct specialist, so that when we're on the call, we know we could set up somebody that will best be able to handle that situation. You might be getting myself on the call, you might be getting one of my other advisors, but at the end of the day, it's all about you. It's all about how to make sure that you are leveraging your chips the right way and making sure that you're destined for a proper retirement success. Once again, thank you very much. Make sure to subscribe, and look forward to speaking to you guys and sending you guys further content.